What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, what a day, a week surrounding one massive injury that everybody, and I mean everybody, speculated, gave their opinion, worried about, has come to a close. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they get a massive boost heading into Week 16 against the Baltimore Ravens. We're diving into a lengthy and very significant injury report for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, one Steelers insider is suggesting a change for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, one that maybe we do or do not agree with moving forward. It's Thursday, so I get it. It's the last day of Pittsburgh Steelers practice, but it's still what's more likely day here at All Steelers Talk, and we'll answer all your questions as we do every day. Nick, thank you for covering yesterday. I was easily worse than any of these injuries, I'll tell you that much. I don't know what GP's dealing with a hamstring, or TJ Watt's dealing with a miraculous ankle injury, but walking pneumonia, my friend, got me on the do not play, did not participate list real fast. So I appreciate you. Shout out our boy Jacob for covering yesterday. I followed along, and a couple of studs on that screen, so it was well appreciated. How you feeling today, my friend?
Feeling all right. I mean, it's been a hectic week, obviously, with you dealing with your illness. We had one of our neighbors catch their breakfast on fire yesterday. So fortunately it didn't deal with us. So like it was on the opposite end of the apartment building. So flooded about 6 or 7 floors of our building, but it was on the opposite side. So the firefighter looked at me and was like, yeah, no, where you live? And I said, 05. And he's like, oh yeah, you're good. You can just go back upstairs. And I was like, all right. So yeah, hectic week, but, Steelers football is here, so I'm going to bury myself into that to avoid dealing with everything else that happened this week.
Dude, that is nuts. It flooded apartment buildings?
Because it caught on fire on the stove, and then the sprinkler system turned on, and it flooded downwards.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy. How do you burn breakfast that bad?
I don't know. Maybe
cooking, man.
Maybe they were prepping. Maybe they were prepping for Christmas. In all fairness, I mean, it is a week before, so maybe they were trying to get some prep done, get some food done firsthand. But either way, everybody was safe, so that's all that matters.
I'm glad that did not affect you. That is wild. Actually, did you mention that yesterday to Jake?
I didn't mention that yesterday. No, I think I was still processing it because I had my backpack on with my laptop and all my work stuff and all the electronics that I could grab, and then the cats in a carrier, and I was running down the stairs.
Oh my gosh, that is the joys of an apartment building. The joys. It's got its good stuff. It's got its crazy moments. I'm glad you guys are good. Glad the cats are good. Glad all the Christmas presents are still dry and safe and sound. That's a nuts one. Hope the people who caught their apartment on fire don't cook breakfast anymore and also are okay. I hope everybody is okay. That's a wild one. I'm glad we have some Pittsburgh Steelers football to talk about to change the direction here and hopefully get your mind off of the fear of cooking, I guess, for the next couple of days. Wow.
Funny enough, today I got a package from Omaha Steaks as a Christmas present. So I was like, I guess I will be. I
almost sent you a package of Omaha Steaks for Christmas. And now I'm sitting here thinking, thank God I did not do that, because the timing would be this timing and it would be terrible, actually. So wow, dude. Wow. I wouldn't cook those steaks for a while. Not in your apartment. Definitely not in your apartment building. Or at least just go get a fire extinguisher, which
we got one.
I think everybody should have. Yeah.
Always need to have that on hand.
Oh, the people who burnt they should have one on hand. Then that you should just a little Christmas present right there at their door.
Right there. Don't know these people. Just
Santa came early. Just say, hey guys, next time, just avoid the whole situation here. We'll be okay. Shout out to that, man. Wow. Shout out to you. Glad everything survived on that one. No last minute Christmas return / extra shopping for the Belskis there. Wow. Nuts times. All right. Well, with that, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football here. Turn our attention to some miraculous news to follow the miraculous news of well, your house not being flooded, which is always good stuff. The Pittsburgh Steelers got the biggest news they could possibly get maybe all season long. This was the Christmas miracle that they needed. The Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday suffered a massive injury. TJ Watt goes down in the fourth quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody's talking. I mean, initials were, oh, this is an Achilles. It's a foot injury. All the Twitter doctors are going crazy saying this is a Liz Frank sprain and this and that and this. Afterwards, TJ Watt says, low ankle sprain. X-rays were negative. I'm feeling okay. Monday morning rolls around. Mike Tomlin saying, I just saw TJ Watt. He's feeling pretty good. I'm pretty optimistic that he'll play against the Ravens. We're sitting here on Bleacher Report's live stream at 5 p.m. talking, that's nonsense. He's lying to us 100%. There's no chance TJ Watt is just suddenly okay after limping off the field into the locker room against the Eagles less than 12 hours ago. All right, well, here we are. TJ Watt was limited in practice, and does not have an injury designation, no injury tag, heading into Week 16 against the Baltimore Ravens. The Pittsburgh Steelers do have many injuries, and we will dive into all of them because they are all very significant, including George Pickens, Deshaun Elliott, Larry Ogunjobi, and Dante Jackson, including Justin Fields. But they get TJ Watt back, which is the biggest news anybody could ask for at this time of the year with the AFC North title on the line and what TJ Watt means to the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially in the regular season, especially this close to the playoffs. Well, he avoids it all, and he will return against the Baltimore Ravens. Nick, your thoughts when you saw no injury tag, TJ, who, I mean, an hour and a half before the injury goes out, the injury report goes out, I'm talking to him. Everybody else is talking to him. And he's saying, I don't know, we'll test it on Saturday and we'll see what happens, which is, I mean, driving there as I'm pulling up to the stadium because I did not go to watch practice and been sick as a dog. I'm not trying to get everybody else sick for Christmas. That's just I'm not into that game. So I show up just before everybody goes into the locker room. I'm driving the whole way there going, I bet you TJ pulls out like some classic Mike Tomlin comment, some classic, I'm going to leave this one hanging on a hinge here just so that everybody gets a cliffhanger going into Saturday so that the Ravens don't know what to do in preparation. Well, that's what he tried to do. And then the Steelers just slammed the door on that and said, nah, TJ's playing, pal. We know it. Your thoughts when you saw TJ Watt, no injury tag going into Week 16?
I mean, the list of injuries is extensive for the Steelers, and they're all in pretty important areas to important players. But if you could only choose one to come back, you're choosing TJ Watt. I mean,
easy.
How many times have we talked about the record of the Steelers without Watt on the field? It's 1-11 if you haven't heard it before. It's not good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you could choose one, it had to be Watt. When this week started, I remember I either told you off air or I said it on air. I'd have to go back and check if I said it on air, but it was the comment that Mike Tomlin made at the end of his press conference. Because in the beginning of his press conference, he gave what he gave, and it was simple Tomlin, but he was asked about Herbig and Preston Smith. He didn't have to say anything about TJ Watt. He did, and I was like, that's weird, but still doesn't practice on Tuesday, limited on Wednesday. The videos look like he's walking a little gingerly, but hey, lo and behold, no injury tag. So that is a huge, huge advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers that, to be completely honest, for most of the week, I had kind of closed off in my head. So I'm excited to see that he's back on the field, and I'm hoping this just means that last week was simply just, hey, I rolled my ankle and I'm taking it easy this week, because if it has lasting effects, it's not what you want to see. But hey, the sign is he's going on Saturday, and that's always better than the opposite.
No, I agree. And I think if there is some sort of line where the Pittsburgh Steelers could say, well, there is the chance that he injures this further, I don't know if they would have pushed it. I think that TJ would have had to really secure himself and say, I'm ready to go. Like, this is going to be totally fine, because afterwards things get difficult. I understand that. And I could see the Pittsburgh Steelers shutting down TJ after this week and just saying, look, we won. We beat the Ravens. We did what we needed to do. We're going to head into, especially if Kansas City beats Houston and the Steelers look like they really locked up the third seed. Great. We're going to head into the postseason. We're going to keep everybody healthy if that's the case. But I also was somewhat convinced at least by yesterday, when TJ was a limited participant, that Mike Tomlin's words about the Baltimore Ravens being a divisional showdown and how important that matchup is, I took that as truth, as in the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to play around with this AFC North title, that they aren't going to say, well, we could win it if we win out after a loss. No, they understand what not having George Pickens out there means. They understand what not having guys like Larry O and Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott out there means. They're not going to risk it with TJ Watt. They're going to go out there. They're going to try to beat Lamar Jackson the way they've been beating Lamar Jackson. And they're going to try to shore this thing up before they have to do anything else and control their own destiny moving forward. And I mean, I don't disagree with it as long as the risk of injury is very, very low heading into this game. Now, on the other side of that, no George Pickens. Deshaun Elliott is doubtful. He barely practiced, if practiced at all this week. Dante Jackson is questionable after returning to practice today in a limited participation. And Larry Ogunjobi is also questionable after being limited throughout the week. I don't expect Deshaun Elliott to play. I have almost no expectation for him to play, actually. Larry O, I could see playing on Saturday. I think that the fact that he was limited throughout the week gives some hope for him to play against the Ravens. And Dante Jackson, I also feel has some hope. He's just the guy that, and I hate to label somebody like this, but he's the guy that just keeps getting hurt and keeps coming back. And that stinks, but at the same time, availability is the best ability, and Dante Jackson's always available for the start of games. And if that's all you're going to get from him right now, I think that's okay. Do you expect anything different? I don't expect Deshaun to play, but I might expect the other two to play.
Yeah, I think I would not count on Deshaun Elliott being out there, especially for what you mentioned. I mean, this is an important game, don't get me wrong, but you need Deshaun Elliott, and I talked about it yesterday with Jacob. You need Deshaun Elliott a lot more than people like to think, because he sets that tone for the defensive backfield. You can't lose Deshaun Elliott going into the playoffs, because you're going to need that physical run stuffer, that guy that in the open field is 90% accurate when it comes to making the tackles. I mean, we saw what the secondary was without him last week, and it was a secondary that was asked a lot of questions about when it comes to tackling, and you need him as the playoffs set to begin. So I would imagine that he's not going to go, especially because he didn't do anything until today. Or yesterday, I believe he was out there a little bit as well. But I think that it's probably likely that he's not going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I do not expect him to go. And then George Pickens and Justin Fields round this injury report out. And I'll say this. George was expected. That's a massive loss. Massive loss. Justin Fields is a huge loss for the Steelers right now because they need somebody. They need some spark on offense, and they got to find it somewhere. And to be honest with you, Justin Fields is a spark. He's an instant spark. He allows you to do other things. And I think at this point, you just got to try to utilize everybody. Whoever can give you that something, that extra step, that speed, who cares? As long as they can get you first downs, Justin Fields could get you first downs. You got to use them. Not having Justin Fields is big. And there are a couple of questions in here that we're going to get to. I don't mean to address them early, but I'm probably going to. I don't think Justin Fields is in a spot where this is a little injury. I think it might be a very concerning injury, one that could shut him down for a while. I mean, abdominal injuries are never easy. That could be a billion things, including a hernia. Like that's something that the Pittsburgh Steelers could be looking at this and saying, yeah, we're going to work through Justin over the next, week or so. But if nothing improves, he might end up on IR. That's how I look at Justin. Like, unless we see some improvement soon, you have to imagine that that's a pretty serious injury. And this close to the postseason, obviously not something you want to deal with or have on your roster or get hit with at the position, but something that the Steelers might have to open up a roster spot for, just because they're going to need somebody else. They're going to have to try to find another playmaker somewhere, and Justin might be shut down. I'm a little nervous about the Justin Fields injury and what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not just now, which I think this is huge. I think you could have really used him without George Pickens out there. But at the same time, I think this could be serious enough to land him out for the rest of the season. With George, are you confident about next week, knowing he did at least some work this week?
Yeah, that's what it feels like they were kind of prepping him for, because it didn't feel like they were trying to get him ready for Saturday. It felt like they were slowly getting him ramped up for next week. With it being a 4-day week, it's not like they have a lot of practice time next week. So it felt like they were using this week as kind of the beginning of his Chiefs prep as the rest of the team was getting ready for the Baltimore Ravens. So again, I think this weekend's result may change that. I think if the Steelers win and they have locked up the AFC North, they might be a little bit more cautious when it comes to George Pickens, especially if Kansas City wins and locks up the 1 seed and Buffalo wins and makes it even more hard or more difficult for the Steelers to lock up the 2 seed. If all those things happen, I think that they might be playing it safe with George. But if they lose or they have actual reason to play and try to win these games for seeding, I think you see George Pickens back by the Kansas City game.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty strong possibility. Now, again, just like you said, this weekend could change a lot of things. I think a win, just like you said, maybe dampens his potential to return, but a loss definitely pushes that eagerness, that sense of urgency to the max to get him back on the field, especially if the offense struggles, because at that point you need something. You got to find some help for Russell Wilson and company. George is your only option. Let's not act like there's nobody else. There's nobody else. We've given up on the Mike Williams thing. It's got to be George Pickens. I agree with you. I do think that there's a sense that George could come back against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Steelers need him to be back against the Kansas City Chiefs if they lose this one. They can't waste any more time without George Pickens. I mean, I think we could all agree on that one where we stand here. This is not a guy. This is not a situation where, I get it, crucial injury, concerning for the postseason. You're running out of time here to win the AFC North. You're running out of opportunities. And the road, as Mike Tomlin says, is getting narrow. It's also getting extremely difficult. And let's not act like Cincinnati's a walkthrough. This is a pretty brutal game against an AFC North opponent who's going to want to spoil your season and is not going to make it easy for you to walk into the postseason as the division championship. If they have anything to say about it, you're going to lose it. So I do think that it kind of pushes that sense of urgency if they lose. Now, again, if they win, there's no need. The Steelers aren't hunting for the 1 seed at this point. I mean, maybe they are, but if the Chiefs beat the Texans, I think it does more for them to just say, okay, cool, let's coast into the 3rd, then let's push it to the max and try to get the 2. I mean, no, you've just as big of a likelihood that you don't have to go to Buffalo as you do have to go to Buffalo if you're the 2 seed. It doesn't make a difference at that point. You'll try for the best, but chances are the road to the Super Bowl isn't going to go through Acrisure Stadium. And because of that, you'll take what you could get, which right now is an AFC North crown. That's what they're looking at. All right, that's the injury report. TJ's in. Massive news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. George Pickens, Justin Fields is out. Deshaun Elliott is doubtful, although we do not expect him to play. Dante Jackson, Larry Ogunjobi, questionable. Feeling good, I think, for both of those guys, but we'll see come Sunday. Let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers backfield here. Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette said this on 93.7 The Fan, saying, quote, "At this point in the season, I know the Steelers probably not going to start Jaylen Warren, but I think Jaylen Warren needs to start seeing the bulk of the carries and the bulk of the snaps here. It just seems like Najee's lost a step or two, maybe just because of the wear and tear. I think it's time for Jaylen to step up and take over as RB1. Now, let me lay out some stats here. Since averaging 7.6, 4.9, and 6.0 yards per carry in his 3 100-yard games, consecutive 100-yard games. Najee Harris's best game since has been 70 yards against the Bengals when he averaged 4.7 yards per run, okay? Outside of that, his best yards per carry has been 3.5, with 3 of his 6 performances being under 3 yards per carry, obviously with his worst game coming against the Eagles. Jaylen Warren has not had the workload that we thought he was going to have coming into this. Part of it was due to injury. The other part is definitely due to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their strange concept of we tie ourselves to one player and we do not move from that player. But he's averaged 4.1 yards per carry this season on 91 rushing attempts with 371 yards. I'll ask you this before I give my thoughts. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers start giving Jaylen Warren a bulk of the load here? Is that their solution to the running game moving forward?
First and foremost, they need the offensive line to perform at a little bit of a better clip. But when it comes to the backs in the backfield, I have not been impressed with what I've seen from Najee Harris. Now, typically, this is the time of the year that he plays his best. And
Yep.
for a while there, he was playing above what he had typically played in the early portions of the season. You mentioned the 300-yard games. That's when we were saying, man, this is a different version of Najee Harris. This is a Najee Harris that might set a personal best in his 4th year, and it wasn't a scrub in his first 3. So but since then, it hasn't been good. So, where I would go with this, I would go to Jalen being the primary. And I know that might be a take that people don't like, but I just think he's more versatile and he can do more things than Najee Harris can. I mean, Najee has been good at times, but I think Jalen right now, especially if your offensive line is struggling, Jalen's a guy that's shown that even though smaller, is better through contact than Najee Harris. So I would go with Jalen Warren.
I agree. I'm going Jalen all day. And I don't think this means take Najee out of the lineup. I don't think this means, less than a 50-50 split. I think at most it should be a 50-50 split, and I'd feel very confident in that. It's just give Jalen the opportunity to be the guy to set the momentum and let Najee do what he does, and that's hit somebody, gain a couple of yards. If that's all you're getting is 3 yards, just get 3 yards and set him up in moments to get those 3 yards. Use Najee as the receiving back. I'd be very okay with that. He excels in the receiving game, and he does well in open space when you give him those opportunities. Jalen, his contact balance is crazy. His vision is great. I mean, maybe not perfect, but I would say better than Najee's. And he's got more explosive to him. That's what you're looking for. You need something. You need some pop, and the Steelers offense has none of it. And at this point, you're working with an offense that doesn't have a passing game because their star wide receiver is out, and Russell Wilson can't seem to get anybody else clicking, and a running game that's doing nothing. And when they are doing something, it's so slow rolled that it's not really gaining the momentum and the speed that you need it to. That's what Jalen Warren could bring to this offense, is just some burst, some explosion, some spark. That's what the Steelers need right now. And I also think this, just like you said, it comes down to the offensive line. But if Arthur Smith isn't going to change the play calls, if he's just going to totally ignore the fact that what he's doing is not helping Najee Harris, because that's what's happening here. Is I get it. Najee's not playing his best football this season. And, for that 3-game stretch, everybody was talking about Najee's got to come back. You got to pay Najee Harris. Got to pay Najee Harris. Got to pay Najee Harris. Well, since then, nobody's saying that. It's been a while since we've had to answer that question here on All Steelers Talk. And I mean, we talk about Cole Holcomb more than we talk about Najee Harris. Let's be honest. If Arthur Smith is just going to ignore the fact that this is not working and not change anything about it, because I don't think Najee's a bad running back. I just don't think he's in the offense that works for him. You got to try somebody else that maybe it does work for. And maybe that's Jalen Warren. And maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't work out. Who knows? But you might as well try it out. You might as well give it an opportunity to say, is this going to be better? Because the only other solution is to just keep doing what you're doing and it not working. There's no risk. This is not, don't fix something if it's not broken. It's broken. Try to fix it. The whole thing's broken. The whole structure, the house of cards has come tumbling down in every aspect of your offense. Try to fix it and see if it works, and see if Jalen Warren is the building block here to say, okay, great. And when everybody wants to talk, well, you keep them fresh for next year. You keep them fresh for next year. Who cares? If you're hunting for a Super Bowl right now, if you're 10-4 and you believe that you're a contender this season, which you probably are, use your best running back. Try to have a guy out there that you think could do better things, bigger, better, splashier things. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't work, at least you know right now that that's not going to work next year either, and you got to explore some other option. But it makes no sense, in my opinion, to just keep pounding a dead horse and saying, yeah, well, there's another 2-yard run. There's another 2-yard run. There's another 2-yard run. No, put Jalen out there. See if it works. See if the pitches work. See if the up the middle bursts work. See if he could make something happen out of nothing. Because, again, during those 3 weeks where Najee was killing it, he was making something out of nothing a lot. Now there's nothing ever, and Najee can't get anything to go. Maybe Jalen's the fresh legs that you need at this point in the season. I don't know, but I think you got to test it out. And I don't think there's an excuse really not to test it out. Now, that being said, I think we could both agree that's not going to happen. The Steelers are a team that are pretty stuck in their ways, have always been stuck in their ways. And just like they aren't going to change the play calling to make it work for Najee, they're not going to change the player to make it work for the play calling. So they're just going to struggle through the offense as they move forward. Is that a big concern? Like, what's your level of concern if the Pittsburgh Steelers cannot figure out their running game for the rest of the season?
I mean, at that point, you might as well hang it up, because we've heard since Arthur Smith was hired, how does he want to win football games? The same way Mike Tomlin does, is setting the tone up front and then the passing game being secondary. He wants to be a run-first outfit, and that's what the Steelers have been historically. I understand that, and that's what the Steelers have been built to do, simply because of, well, who the running backs are versus who the wide receivers are on this team. But if they can't run the football, if they can't establish the run in any of these games, then you might as well hang it up, because you're not going to have a successful day on offense, and the defense is not going to be able to carry you through an entire AFC playoff race without any support from the offense and without getting off the field when it comes to the offense, because that's the reason the Steelers were succeeding early this season. It's because the running game was working and the defense wasn't out there every single time like they were against Philadelphia. If they can't run, it's going to look a lot like it did at Lincoln Financial.
100%. You're going to find yourself up against the Patrick Mahomes, where you need to control that clock. You need to control that game. You need to make sure that he doesn't get 2 minutes with the football and an opportunity to win a football game. And you're not going to be able to do that by saying, all right, moon balls all day, every day. That's all we got here. Let's see if they can work. No, you're going to need a ground game. You're going to need somebody to get 4 or 5 yards a clip. Maybe that's Jaylen Warren. Maybe it's not. But I'll tell you what, right now it's not Najee Harris. Right now, it's certainly not Cordero Patterson, and they're almost out touching him. And it makes almost no sense. And if you got a guy that you believe in, you might as well give him an opportunity. Again, I don't know if the Steelers believe in him like that, but they should. And I think the rest of us kind of see that as we move forward. All right. That's everything on our agenda. So let's toss it over to this one. It's Thursday. We're diving into what's more likely. Week 16, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, a big one. A clash for the AFC North crown, one that could decide the Pittsburgh Steelers' fate heading in to the postseason. A massive game without George Pickens, but with TJ Watt. And I don't know if you heard the news, but Patrick Mahomes is playing on Christmas too, because, well, just like TJ, that man's also Superman. And that's absolutely wild. I'm going to toss it to you. What's more likely? Week 16, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens. What do we got?
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not the only team in this matchup that are dealing with a couple of significant injuries. The Ravens have some wide receiver issues. As we know, Deontay Johnson is out because they just agreed that he's going to take a sabbatical. Meanwhile, Bateman and Aguilar, both questionable for Saturday's game. So they might be down 3 receivers potentially heading into this one. What's more likely? 2 different Steelers receivers catch a touchdown on Saturday, or 2 different Ravens receivers catch a touchdown this Saturday.
Oh, man, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, it's as much as this kills me to say, okay? It's probably Baltimore, right? Because at least you got Lamar, who you have to focus on. The Steelers defense is solely focused on stopping Lamar and Derrick Henry. They're not going to care about the nobodies in Baltimore. Whereas in Baltimore, who you focused on? That's the problem. That's why the George Pickens not playing thing isn't working, because there's nobody to focus on. You're not a defense going, got to stop Najee Harris, got to stop Russell Wilson, got to stop Justin Fields, got to stop Pat Freiermuth. No, you're just sitting there going, yeah, we don't really got to stop anybody, man. As long as we just show up, chances are we've got the upper hand. At least Pittsburgh's going to be distracted. You got to go Baltimore in this one. And that sucks to say, and I feel bad saying it. This is 2 weeks in a row where you're giving me brutal ones here, dude. But I'm going what's more likely. 2 random new wide receivers in Baltimore catch a touchdown over Pittsburgh's.
I mean, you still have Zay Flowers, but second one's pretty hard to find. Tylan Wallace, Devontae Walker had one last week. Either way,
those are decent names. They're not good names, but I'm taking them over the options that the Steelers are using right now.
Very fair. Very fair.
Let's outside of Calvin Austin. Let's just
outside
make
of
that clear. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Van has 2. Maybe Van can get 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's also not forget, last time these 2 teams played, the Steelers scored a grand total of 0 touchdowns So let's keep that in mind. Speaking of the offense struggling against the Baltimore Ravens, what's more likely? A bounce back in this one for Russell Wilson against the Ravens, throwing for 300 yards, or Najee Harris running for 100 yards against the Ravens defense?
Oh my gosh, what are we doing here? This is almost a neither answer. This is Russell Wilson throwing for 300 yards in a game where last time he couldn't do anything against the Baltimore Ravens. 205, coming off of a game where, 205, and half of that was like, what was Georgia's stat line in that one? Because that's what it was moonball central to get you to the 20, and then nobody could score a touchdown. That's what was happening there. At the same time, Najee's not doing anything right now to make you think that he could rush for 100 yards. But last time he had, I think, 80 yards. He was just under 100 the last time that they played, because it was just before the 3-game stretch, or just after the 3-game stretch. 63 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was a good, Derrick Henry had 64. So that was our 67. So that was a good outing against the Baltimore Ravens. Wow, dude, this is a brutal one. What's more likely is Najee, just because I got no faith in Russ and this passing game until proven otherwise. That just ain't gonna happen. And Baltimore's defense is getting better. So I'm going Najee. I don't feel good about that one, but I'm going Najee. What's more likely? Najee 100 yards.
Let's jump over to the defensive side of the football. Another injury to look out for the Baltimore Ravens. I believe, let me double check here, Odafe Oweh is questionable with an injury that popped up, ankle, midweek here. So I still want to ask this question. What's more likely? The Steelers hold Odafe Oweh without a sack on Saturday, or the Ravens hold TJ Watt without a sack, both of them on a bum ankle?
You gotta go Odafe. You gotta go Odafe being held without a sack. TJ's a monster in these games. This is what TJ, you could talk like, oh, TJ's been double teamed and this and that, whatever. This is where TJ thrives. This is where TJ turns into TJ Watt, where the massive game's on the line and he's saying screw it. And you could go back throughout time. Like, people overlook the fact that they got smoked by the Chiefs a couple of years ago in the playoffs, when Mike Tomlin's like, this is a game where you better cut your eyelids off because ain't nobody blinking. And then people were sleeping by halftime. But what started that game? TJ Watt sliding into the end zone with a touchdown, because guess what? That's what he does. He shows up in these games, even if the rest of the team does not. You got to go TJ in this one. You got to go TJ getting a sack. Like, I don't care about that ankle, man. TJ is going to wrap that thing, take some smelling salts, do whatever he's got to do to get out there and not even realize he has ankles. He doesn't even know what an ankle is by the time he steps on that field. Odafe might be a little bit beat up. I don't know about that. I don't know him like that. I don't know that work like that. I know TJ, and I know that man is terrifying. So to me, that's all I need to know. I'd put my money on TJ coming up with a sack in this one.
Yeah, I made this initially before seeing Odafe Oweh was questionable, but 2.5 sacks in that last matchup. He was chewing up Dan Moore. So if he is good to go on Saturday, we're going to need to give Dan Moore a little bit of help, because that was not a good matchup in week 11.
I agree. What should help some confidence here is Myles Garrett had a game and a half the first time they played and did absolutely nothing on Dan Moore the second time.
Fair enough. Adjustments are everything in this league, as we always say.
That's true.
Let's go over to the next one here. What is more likely? The Steelers finish the season as the AFC's number 2 seed, or the Steelers finish the season as the AFC's number 7 seed? Do you want to know the scenarios in which they can get to either, Noah?
Yes, please.
They get the number 2 seed by winning out and the Bills losing one of their final 3 games. They played the New England Patriots, the New York Jets, and then the New England Patriots again. And they get the number 7 seed if they lose out and the Chargers end up winning out against Denver, New England, and Las Vegas.
Oh, that's not even hard. Oh my gosh. You're going to get, people are going to hate me over this. Like, this is ridiculous. It's as crazy as it sounds. It's the 7 seed. As crazy as it sounds, it's the 7 seed. Now let's get some things right here. Okay. I don't think Denver loses to LA. I don't. I think Denver's way too good right now, and LA is not good enough. So that's how I feel about that one. When it comes to Buffalo, I do think they went out. They have the easiest schedule in the whole world, but I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers went out. I just don't. Like, you're going to beat Kansas City, you're going to beat Baltimore, and then you're going to go to Cincinnati, or you're going to play Cincinnati at home and say, we're going to put everything on the line here. No, no, you can care less at that point. It's the 2 seed. And remember the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers were fighting for a playoff spot that meant nothing? They're like, yeah, dude, who cares? Like, nobody gets a bye except for the 1 seed. We're going to take this. We're going to make sure nobody else gets hurt. So I would say it's much more likely that the Pittsburgh Steelers would end up with the 7th seed, just because like that's an actual possibility here. It's almost a 0 possibility, but it's much higher than 0 than the Bills losing out with that cakewalk of us. Like New England,
they just have to lose one, not lose out. Lose one.
They got to lose one.
Lose one of those games.
Nah, I still don't think they could do it. I still don't. Like, you just beat Detroit. Who are you gonna lose to? You know, New England, not happening. As crazy as it sounds, it's the 7th seed.
That's all I have for what's more likely. We got a couple in the comment section that we'll go to. Let's go to It's Desi, who says, "What's up, fellas? What's more likely, OBJ coming to the Steelers for the rest of this season, or the Steelers getting Ashton Jeanty this offseason?"
I would love to say Ashton Jeanty, but he's going top 10. He's 100% going top 10. Although no mock drafts have him going that high, which is wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. I'll say this. I'd say it's Jeanty just because there's a possibility he slides. If he slides, Steelers are going to grab him. Why wouldn't they grab him? You know, why would you avoid a guy like that? You should not avoid a guy like that. OBJ come to the Steelers. When Doug Whaley says it, you know it ain't happening. So if that's what we're going off of, I'm going Ashton Jeanty all day.
And we got one other one here from Josh. That is, what's more likely, Watt, Herbig, and Highsmith each get a sack, or Lamar goes for 50+ rushing yards?
I mean, Lamar 50+. Does he go a game without 50+ rushing yards? Is that
not very often?
Is that a thing? Like, I would, if it was like 100 rushing yards, I'd say Watt, Herbig, Highsmith. 50. I mean, that's almost a cakewalk for Lamar Jackson, especially if he's down 2 wide receivers. That's big. He's going to be, I mean, don't get me wrong, Mark Andrews is his number 1 wide receiver, but he's going to need to use his legs. Not that he doesn't already, but Lamar 50 rushing yards, easy on that one. That's a cakewalk for him.
Lamar has been, the last 2 games, he had 65 and 79 respectively. So that's the type of rushing that he's been doing lately. So 50 yards is a very low number for Lamar Jackson.
It's not if we're going 100, I'd say Watt, Herbig, Highsmith. 50, you got to go Lamar on that one. I'd feel pretty confident. I think when I'm making that parlay on Saturday morning, I bet you Lamar 50 rushing yards is on that parlay for sure.
Let's go over and finish it off with Carl Spackler, who throws one in and says, what's more likely, the Bills lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship and the Lions fall just short of a Super Bowl again, or the Steelers are one and done? Battle of the narratives.
Okay, so the Bills lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. Lions fall just short of a Super Bowl again. So both of those things have to happen. Or is it one or the other?
It's both of those things.
Okay. Or Steelers are one and done. What's more likely? Steelers are one and done. You know, the Lions
has to happen in the other one.
Yeah, more than it has to. But I mean, even if we're gonna like the Lions, the Lions, I still, even with their injuries, man, they are terrifying. I mean, the Eagles are my favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. I think hands down. All 3 are solo. Okay. I would still go Steelers one and done. I'd go Lions. Lions fall just short of a Super Bowl is what's more like. Injuries are piling up. Eagles, I think, are way scarier right now than the Lions. Although you got to outscore the Lions, which is not easy to do. The Steelers would be number 2 here, one and done, just depending on their matchup. Bills losing to the Chiefs in the AFC, like that's an easy that could happen. You know, people, we're hitting the point right now where the Chiefs are winning, and they are. It's magic, it's luck, it's all of those things, but they are winning. and they don't do anything but winning. So until they stop winning, I'm guessing they're going to win. Every time I'm going to guess they're going to win, including against the Bills, who I get it, beat them. But that was the only time they've lost this season. And if I had to pick a team and a head coach and a quarterback who can adjust after losing to a team, it would be Andy Reid, the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes. So that would be my order there.
Let's actually go with this one as well. Jordan says Patrick Queen interception or Minkah Fitzpatrick interception?
Patrick Queen interception. Yeah. This is, yeah. I can't, I'll tell you, screw it. Nobody repeat this, okay? Nobody repeat this. So they did like the backers on running backs drills this week of practice, and there were no pads or whatever. So you just like go over and like if the water bottle is the person, you just go over and touch them real fast. And PQ got a little too into it and definitely gave a little shoulder to Najee. Everybody's like, oh, okay. Okay. Even caught Najee by surprise. But he's like, oh, okay. PQ's fired up. Ravens week. PQ's fired up. I go PQ all day. This is in M&T Bank Stadium. Like the last one was big. This one's massive. This one's massive for him.
That's a wrap for what's more likely then.
Awesome. Fantastic, guys. Appreciate all your input. As always, these are always great. Week 16. Hopefully nobody hates me after picking a couple of bad Steelers ones, but got to keep it honest as we do all the time. All right. With that said, we're going to finish off the show the same way we do every single day by answering all of your questions. So make sure that you toss them in the chat. We'll get to all of them. Before we head out of here, Nick, what do we got?
Yeah, let's start things off with Cody Silva, who says Mike Tomlin's been telling us, the people, in his press conferences the last few weeks that we have our so-called wide receiver number 2. Do you think he still feels that way now that Pickens has been out?
Yeah, no. I mean, yes. Yes, I guess. I don't know. I think that he feels the same exact way. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I could not tell you why he is the most stubborn head coach in the NFL when it comes to changing players. I have no idea. I've never known. I could never put my finger on it. Every reporter or insider or person within that building that I talk to can't help me put my finger on it. It's just who he is, man. When he says this is what's happening, even if it's April, it's what's happening. And there is no changes about it. And most of the time, 50% of the time it works, 50% of the time it doesn't. This time is certainly one where it's not. So, yeah, he does still feel that way. I'll tell you this. The Steelers do have a number 2 wide receiver. His name's Calvin Austin, and he's pretty damn good. Like, he's coming up big in these moments. The problem is that you have nobody else. And yeah, Calvin Austin's great and reliable, but the reason that Xavier Worthy works so well in Kansas City lately is because Travis Kelce's there. Pat Freiermuth's not doing enough. The offense isn't designed to do enough for Pat Freiermuth. So to be very honest, Calvin Austin's there and available and should be utilized, but the offense is not built to utilize him. And the offense isn't built to utilize the people around him to help him. So that's what it comes down to. Arthur Smith's failing these guys. And, the fact that they're still leaning on guys that don't deserve to be leaned on is the problem here.
Let's go over to Josh, who says, what are the chances, that Deshaun Elliott signs a long-term deal and retires a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I mean, as long as he can stay healthy and plays well, he's 27 now. I believe he'll be just about 30 at the end of his current deal. I mean, he could definitely sign another 2-year deal and retire a Steeler, but that's when you're 30 years old in the NFL, so many things could change. So that's a wait and see situation. We'll have to play that one by year. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers are feeling good about where he is and everybody else is feeling good about where he is in 2-3 seasons, great. I mean, I think he fits the mold. I think he is a Pittsburgh Steeler, but play changes a lot when you're 30 years old in the NFL. So we'll see what price is. We'll see what all that is. I expect him to play out this contract for sure and definitely be in talks to sign another, depending on where he is at that time.
Let's go over to Unlimited Moonballs, who says, is it just me or does it feel like we were given this schedule with the mindset that we'd be out of playoff contention by now? Nobody had us above 3rd in the division in national media at the start.
So I think 2 things. I think for one, it was geared towards trying to get Mike Tomlin a losing season. I do think that was part of it. I also think that the NFL knew long before any of us that Hard Knocks was coming to Pittsburgh this time of year. That was a thing. So I think that was the other side of this, is that, oh, why did the Steelers get a Christmas Day game against the Kansas City Chiefs? That's so stupid. Why are all their AFC North games at the end of the season? That's so stupid. Well, that's because Hard Knocks wanted some good television, and they're getting it. Don't get me wrong, they're getting it. But I think that's what it was designed to. I think it was 100% or 50% them preparing for Hard Knocks, 75% them preparing for Hard Knocks, 25% them throwing a curveball Mike Tomlin's way to see if they could throw him off this winning streak. Because I do think that is a narrative that, they have to challenge a little bit, and people are getting a little antsy with.
I will say the Kansas City Chiefs schedule is very similar, so I don't agree with the unlimited moon balls being because the Steelers were going to be bad. I agree with you. I think it was Hard Knocks, and I think it was just the fact that they wanted the two teams that were going to play on Christmas to have similar schedules, so they tried to line it up as evenly as possible, aka the Chiefs playing the Texans this week and the Steelers playing the Ravens, not to mention they just wanted everybody on the same page for that Christmas Day game.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of teams that you could line up and say all these things, but yeah, the AFC North got hit pretty. I mean, if you want to talk about who got it bad, Cleveland. Cleveland got it bad because they got the Steelers, at least, like, they're a competitor. The Browns are not good, and they're just getting walloped because of Hard Knocks.
Let's go over to Josh, who says, when is Corey Trice going to be back, and is Roman Wilson still alive? There's been no updates, and we haven't seen him on the sidelines.
Yeah, Roman Wilson is alive. He will not play the season. He's going to spend the rest of the year on IR with his hamstring injury. Corey Trice is back. He just isn't active during games. Dante Jackson's questionable. If he plays, I don't expect Corey Trice to be active. If he doesn't play, I expect Corey Trice to be active. James Pierre's just been impressive. He's been playing well in special teams. He's been playing well on defense. I mean, I don't think he's really even played poorly when he filled in for Dante Jackson. I'm not saying he played great, but I don't think he's played the worst. So because of that, they're not going to change that up. They're not going to take a chance and then bench James Pierre with Corey Trice, who has that's the biggest thing here. And I've said it so many times over the last week or so. That's the biggest thing with Corey Trice. He's got 2.5 games of NFL experience. That's not enough to hold any ground in this league. You're a 7th round pick who missed all of last season and then came in here and had 2.5 weeks of games before you got hurt. You have nothing to hold on to. The Steelers are not looking at you as a key piece to this defense. You're simply a guy that just came back from injury, and they already have one of those guys. His name's James Pierre. So there's no reason to rush him back into the active roster, and that's how the Steelers feel.
Josh has another question here, which is, do the Steelers have a shot at landing Chris Godwin in the offseason?
I think that's a possibility. I mean, that's the Steelers. I expect to definitely do some big searching here for wide receiver. My expectation is the Steelers try to make a splash. Maybe that's Chris Godwin. I'll tell you, Mike Tomlin loved Chris Godwin coming out of college years back. I mean, he was classic Pittsburgh Steeler, big-bodied, physical, speedy wide receiver. I could see that happening for sure. Him, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, they're all on a list where, to me, it makes way too much sense, at least not to think about it if you're the Steelers, and I expect them to think about all three of them.
Let's go over to Loswald, who says, Noah, with Justin Fields out, who's our emergency quarterback? Should they go out and get Duck Hodges, a.k.a. Duck Daddy?
Good old Duck Hodges. Hope he's doing well, man. He's living the life, dude. Is there a better life to live than being the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers for like 6 weeks, making a good chunk of change, and then going and dating Lainey Wilson and just chilling, dude? Just being an at-home duck dad. I mean, come on, man. The guy won. And he said it himself. Mike Tomlin told him long ago he was going to win at life. Shout out Duck Hodges. He was also a great dude. So all about Duck Hodges. Who there would be no emergency quarterback this week. It'll just be Kyle Allen as the number 2 and Russell Wilson as the starter. If they needed to, who's their third? I don't even know who their third would be. Scotty Miller, I would guess, is their like emergency quarterback. It used to be Zach Gentry. I would guess now it's Scotty Miller. That would be my guess. Maybe Cordell Patterson. He might be able to throw the football.
Let's go to Aaron Gonto, who says, why isn't Beanie Bishop utilized more? He was the cause of several of our wins, and even for the big man interception, he was the rusher that forced the throw.
I wouldn't say the cause of several wins. I would say definitely helped against the Jets 100%. But I would not say the cause of several wins. But he's also playing like most of the snaps. So I don't know if that's changed over the last couple of weeks. I mean, you want Cam Sutton to be in there, obviously, but Beanie's still the starter. Beanie's still getting a majority of the reps on defense in that nickel position. It's just different sub packages that he's not on the field because you don't have that position on the field. But that's all it would be. If he's not on the field, it's for different sub packages or base package that he's not on. But in the nickel, he's out there a majority of the time.
Yeah, I wanted to double check. I think he was up around 80% of the defensive snaps last week.
Yeah,
because
he's got to be.
He's out there a lot.
Yeah, he's still like the guy. Cam Sutton's playing a lot more, but Cam Sutton's playing a lot more dime backer. Cam Sutton's playing a lot more safety. He is playing a lot of nickel, don't get me wrong, but he should be. You have two good nickels. Might as well use them.
Yeah, he played 24. I was wrong on that one. 24% of the snaps last week, but the week prior that he played a good chunk of snaps on defense.
Yeah, but last week, like, who are you like? What is the nickel? Why do you don't want a nickel out? Like, you know what I mean? That's not the sub package you're utilizing.
It's matchup based.
Yeah, it's all matchup based. Philadelphia was not the team for that.
Let's go over to Eric, who says, what are the odds we take the win this weekend with only Chris Boswell?
Definitely not zero. Definitely not zero. I mean, you do it once, cool. You do it twice. Twice is a trend in the NFL. I mean, why not? I would say definitely not zero. Shout out Chris Boswell. I know you did who was your top of your power rankings yesterday?
It was still TJ. Chris was number 2.
Okay, that's what I would have had it to. He's still up there. Easily top 2. Shout out Chris Boswell.
Let's head over to Sajan, who says, if the Steelers win this weekend, who do you think we will face if we're the number 3 seed in the playoffs? And if we lose, what seed do you think we finish at? And who are we likely to play in the playoffs?
If we lose, I would imagine we get the 5 seed because Baltimore would get the 3 seed. And then I would guess they finish with the same record as the Denver Broncos. At that point, you're playing Houston. If you do lose, if you're the 3 seed, you would play Los Angeles, who would
either that or Denver. Tonight's a big one to determine that.
Okay, yeah. So it'd be them or Denver, whoever finishes 6th and whoever finishes 5th. That's who you would play. I'd feel good about any of those matchups, to be honest with you. But obviously, you feel better playing them at home.
Let's go over to Vibin with the Dogs, who says, can we just get a Cam Hayward appreciation shout out? Because that man's has been balling all season long.
Dude, I think I called that man the defensive player of the year. This is his Canton year.
Yeah.
Cam Hayward is a stud this season. Absolute stud. When TJ went down, I was talking to my dad about this because he's a Denver Broncos fan. And I was like, dude, Nick Bonito might be the guy that wins defensive player of the year if TJ's done. And he was like, yeah, maybe. And I was like, it honestly should come down to him and Cam Hayward. And I mean, it should be Cam Hayward, but they want to give it to him. But that's how good of a year. Like, Cam's an absolute monster this year. I've never seen Cam this good ever. And I don't know why people do not appreciate that man as much as he should be appreciated.
Let's go over to Brandon Smith, who says, hey, Noah, what are the keys to victory this week? I think this game is going to be the exact opposite of the one earlier this season. It'll be about the Steelers offense against the Ravens defense this time around.
I can't say I agree with that. I would say my key to victory, while I hope that's the case, my key to victory is just keeping the Ravens defense our offense as quiet as possible. Give Russ some opportunity to win this game. That's my key to victory. Give the offense some opportunity to win. You can't give up 20 points against the Ravens this week. If you do, don't expect a victory because it's not going to happen. I would say it's TJ shutting down Lamar, Alex Highsmith shutting down Derrick Henry, Cam Hayward doing his part. That would be my key to victory is do not let more than 20 points on that board and give Russell Wilson an opportunity to go out there and win this football game.
Yeah, I'd say, Brandon, I'm sorry to have to say I disagree about this game being the exact opposite because every single Ravens-Steelers game has been the exact same since
true.
2020. I mean, they haven't had one team hasn't had 20 points since December 5th of 2021. So it's been a while since offense has been the key factor when it comes to putting up a bunch of points. I don't think this is going to be a shootout.
No. And if it is, the Steelers are in trouble.
Let's go over to Unlimited Moonballs. Appreciate you again. Says, pick one player to bring off IR with a full bill of health.
Man, that is tough. One player. The IR isn't even that crazy right now, to be honest. Like you got Roman Wilson would have to be up there, but I think that's a gamble. I think that's a massive gamble to say Roman's the guy you're bringing off because what if he's not even ready? What if you just brought him off for nothing? I mean, that's a risk for sure. Cole Holcomb would be huge. That would be a good. Who else is on IR? Is anybody big on IR?
I know Broderick's been playing better, but I would still bring Troy Fautanu back. I mean, of the options available, I would bring Troy Fautanu back, especially because then at the very least, you have a little bit of depth. Because right now, if a tackle goes down, Calvin Anderson hasn't. I mean, still, I think it's one snap, one sack for him. So I think that I would bring back Troy Fautanu.
Calvin Anderson's even on IR right now. I think it's Spencer again. It's Spencer Anderson. Yeah, hamstring groin injury, like right at the end of practice last week. Yeah, it'd have to be Troy or Roman Wilson, one of the two. And I think both are like there's no like big, like this guy's going to make a massive impact name. And I think that's what's concerning here. But I would say one of those two, maybe Roman because it's a bigger need, but I don't. Troy is less risk, maybe less reward. Roman is a much bigger risk, potentially like season-saving reward. So I would say those two.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will still be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time, to go through our picks for the game, plus much more to talk about before everybody heads to Baltimore. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.